For this program, for the first yahrzeit of my dear friend and colleague, Reb Chaim Mendel Reisner, I made a few notes I'd like to share with you from the years that I worked closely with him on the Ask Noah organization that he founded. But I can't speak about that without including his wife Leah, because they worked as a team. One of Chaim's main activities was coming up with new ideas for me to work on. But he would first ask Leah what she thought of his ideas. So I think it was thanks to Leah that between working on Ask Noah projects, I had a little time to eat and occasionally sleep. I lived in Pittsburgh from 1990 to 94, and then my engineering job transferred for 5 years. During that time, Chaim and his family moved to Pittsburgh, and then my family and I moved back in 1999, so that's when I met him. Chaim found out that I knew a little about computers on the internet, so he asked me for some help with this website, which he said was dedicated to something that the Rebbe had promoted. I was looking for something to get involved with that would help bring Mashiach, so I was willing to listen to what he had in mind. So what was it? With the help of Leah Borenstein, Chaim had created a little 2-page website hosted by Yahoo GeoCities called Ask Noah. He asked me if I could help him build that up, and the rest is history. So how did Ask Noah get started? Chaim was totally devoted to the directives of Lubavitcher Rebbe, and one that personally resonated with him very much was the directive to promote the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, the 7 commandments for all the Gentiles in the world. When Chaim had his idea to make a website called Ask Noah to promote the Sheva Mitzvot, it was after the Rebbe's first stroke, so he wanted to be sure that he had undertook it with the blessings of some leading rabbis in Chabad. The first thing he did was to make visits to Crown Heights to ask a number of rabbis if they would approve of him creating such a website. He visited Lebel Groner and Rabbi Benjamin Klein, Rabbi Yonah Avson, the director of Sickles in English, Rabbi Shalom Dochman, the director of Kol Chabad, Rabbi Shmuel Butman, the director of the Lubavitch Youth Organization, and several other leading rabbis. They all expressed approval, and Rabbi Avson gave him permission to use any relevant material from Sickles in English on the future website. Then he moved to Pittsburgh, and of course he consulted with Rabbi Rosenfeld. I should mention that this was before Chaim, and perhaps anyone else, heard anything about there being an idea for a website called AskMoses.com. Before I start talking about the expansion of the website and our international networking and publishing of major works for the Noahide movement, I want to mention the Sheva Mitzvahs Outreach Center that was based in Pittsburgh, which was Chaim's chair restoration shop on Murray Avenue in Squirrel Hill. I know there are rumors and some claims of eyewitnesses of Chaim actually squeezing in some time to work on restoring the chairs, but most often he would be welcoming Gentile passers-by into the shop to sit and talk. He would speak about the meaning of life and doing random acts of goodness and kindness, and how regularly dropping a coin for charity into a charity can in their home could bring them success with resolving problems in their life. He would tell them of his very embellished stories from the book of Genesis, and how to get closer to God through observing the 7 laws that God gave to Noah. He also had intuition about encouraging someone to look into their mother's genealogy if he had a feeling that the person might be Jewish. From the visitors who came back again to follow up, he had a good track record in all the above. I want to mention a vision for Ask Noah that Chaim had early on, which itself was not accomplished, but what it grew into was incredible. It was called the Vineyard Program. He wanted to establish a location in northeastern Pennsylvania, where Gentiles could live for a period of time and devote themselves to learning from rabbinical staff about the Sheva Mitzvos and righteous living, while combining that with work on an on-site farm and vineyard with all the associated halachas being observed. He drafted a proposal and a business plan and actually looked for a vineyard owner who would host the program. It was never accomplished, or I should say not yet, but from his idea from an academy of Noahide studies, one thing led to another. At this point I need to interject that Chaim and Leah traveled to Eretz Israel almost every year to visit their daughter who lived in the Shamron. I think it was during their trip in 2003 that Chaim visited some well-known rabbis to speak with them about the work of Ask Noah and his idea for setting up Torah-based academies for Noahide study. The word of his idea got around to Rabbi Boaz Kali, Alav Shalom, the director of the Noahide Outreach Organization 7for70.com. Rabbi Kali was being encouraged to meet with Chaim. So one day, he came with an entourage to the house of Chaim's daughter and spent the day talking to Chaim. After that, a rabbi who worked for Rabbi Kali got in touch with me and sent some information about a request the Rebbe had made that there should be a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch written in English for the halachas of the Sheva Mitzvahs, so Gentiles would be able to study and correctly observe their mitzvos. Chaim saw that this was what was needed, and I as well, to get the Noahide movement into the correct track. I found early on there was much confusion and wrong information being spread out on the internet and in books that were being published about Noahide observance. There was no sign yet of the breadth of halakhic research that was needed. We showed Rabbi Rosenfeld the information that I had received, and he confirmed that we were interpreting it correctly, and it was a worthy project to get involved in. So Chaim and I invited several rabbis to join a team to work on the project under the auspices of Ask Noah. To name some of them, we had a working relationship with Rabbi Emmanuel Shochet Alav Shalom from Toronto, who had become the overseeing Rav for our organization, so he agreed to join. Chaim was friendly with Rabbi Eliyahu Tauger, who had lived in Pittsburgh for a few years earlier, and he agreed to join. We also contacted Rabbi Shimon David Cowan in Melbourne, Australia, who had been active for many years in teaching Sheva Mitzvos classes to Gentiles and writing and lecturing on the subject. One year, when he was in the U.S., Chaim and I had invited him for a Shabbos in Pittsburgh to give a lecture at the shul, and he agreed to join. The biggest development was that Rabbi Tauger brought the very great scholar, Rabbi Moshe Weiner, in Yerushalayim, into the team. Rabbi Weiner had done a lot of halakhic checking of Rabbi Tauger's English translation and footnoting of Rambam's Mishnah Torah. This was seeming to come together for Chaim's vision, because the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch for the Sheva Mitzvahs would be the basis for the teaching at Noahide academies that he envisioned. Chaim wanted this to have some high-level rabbinical approval, so when he made his trip to Eretz Yisrael in 2004, he visited some of the leading Rabbanim and presented this to them. With the connections he had, he visited Rav Shlomo Moshe Amar, the chief Sephardic rabbi, Rabbi Avadia Yosef, and Rav Eliyahu Bakshi Daron, who were former chief Sephardic rabbis. All of them gave their approval for our project for the writing of a Torah code of Noahide laws, and for the idea of academies where Gentiles would use this text for their studies. The caveat, he was told, was that the first Noahide academies should be established in North America, and when those were successful, branches could be set up in Eretz Yisrael. Chaim also met with Professor Nachum Rockover, a former Deputy Attorney General of Israel and head of the Jewish Legal Heritage Society. He had written extensively over the years on the Torah's commandment for Gentiles to establish courts of law and how they could apply in modern societies. Chaim received a very warm letter of approval from him. A year later, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch project was unfortunately not progressing as we hoped, due to circumstances beyond our control. So Chaim and I decided that we needed to get the core team together in person to chart the best way to move forward. Rabbi Tauger and Rabbi Weiner were living in Yerushalayim, and during Cheshvan, Rabbi Cowan was there for a family visit. So I booked rooms for several days for Chaim, Rabbi Shloket, and myself at a hotel there, along with a conference room. And we flew there for the meeting. It was decided that to produce a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch for the Noahide Code for a general wide world audience, we first had to have a full, in-depth Shulchan Aruch with Haskama from one of the widely recognized Gedolim of the generation. We decided it would require a high-level Torah scholar to devote his time to researching and writing the entire Shulchan Aruch himself. Rabbi Weiner took on that mission, and another outcome was that he later became the overseeing Rav for Ask Noah. It was decided that the Gadol he would approach for Haskama was Rabbi Zalman Nechemya Goldberg Alav Shalom, and it was a great blessing that he interacted with Rabbi Weiner extensively in the discussion of the halachas, and he gave his unreserved approbation to the completed work. It was titled Sheva Mitzvos Hashem, which is in 3 volumes in Hebrew. The Kitzur English edition is titled The Divine Code. It's now in the 4th edition and has made a huge impact on the Noahide movement worldwide. I want to now draw attention to the growth of Chaim's vision and some of the contributions that he made for the website and our publications. The site asknoah.org currently has 650 web pages, and the question and answer forum has about 1,500 posts. We have 6 Facebook pages and a Facebook group that's primarily for Noahides, 1,000 members. We have over 20 publications in 9 languages, with more on the way, and there are some large Noahide communities around the world affiliated with Ask Noah. One of the things that Chaim had an impact on was our book of recommended daily prayers and blessings for Noahides. It was authorized by Rabbi Weiner and Rabbi Shochet. Chaim insisted that it include a recommendation to have a tzedakah box in the home to set aside coins for charity on a regular basis. He also insisted that there be prayers for specific personal needs and life cycle events, a prayer for livelihood, for safe traveling, for the health of a sick person, for a newborn baby and the mother who gave birth, and for a departed soul. A few of our web pages are uniquely from Chaim. He wrote one of the most popular pages on the site. It's called How to Become a Noahide, a Righteous Gentile. We have the recording of an internet radio interview that he did with Don Goodman in Crown Heights in 2019. We have a page about Chaim in the section about the organization. We feature his book of gourmet recipes called Happy Kosher and his Kindle book called The Best of Chaim's Kosher Kitchen. The page is basically the same content as in the first little website that he started. It's the one called Acts of Goodness and Kindness. It begins by saying, "The light and love that is created through performance of goodness and kindness dispels much hatred and evil. Join the movement and call to action and pay it forward. Here are some practical suggestions.